It's time to add explosions. We're going to add an impact particle when our projectile lands. So we're going to take that blaster shot, and whenever it hits something, we're going to spawn one of these explosion blue prefabs. Let's drag this out and see what it looks like. You can see here it's kind of huge, but if I press play, it does this neat explosion effect. Let's watch it real quick, and then we'll figure out a size that looks better. So that's cool, but way too big. If I scale it down to about 0.25 though, now it looks about the size that my blaster shots were at. So I'm going to pick that as my size that we'll use. I'm going to go down to my explosion prefab and change it to 0.25 and 0.25 on the X and the Y. The Z doesn't matter because it's completely flat. As long as it's not 0, it's fine. So I'm just going to leave it at 1. Now we need to go to our blaster shot and make this thing spawn one of these explosion objects. To do that, we'll open up the blaster shot script, and in the on collision enter, we're just going to instantiate a blaster explosion, or let's call it an impact explosion. So say var explosion, because we're going to do something with it afterwards, equals, and we want the instantiate method, so we'll call it instantiate, and we'll give it a name of a new field that we're going to create. And what did I say we're going to call this? Impact explosion. And then we're going to spawn this at the point of the collision. So we don't want to use our projectile's position, that's like the center of it. We want to use the collision.contacts. Let's see if I can spell contacts right, not contracts, at 0. So the first contact, and we want the position or the point of that. And then the final thing we need is a rotation. We'll just use quaternion.identity. Add the semicolon at the end, and now we need to create an impact explosion field. So I'll hit Alt-Enter and generate a field. Got to go down to variable and choose field. Hit F12 to go to it, and I'll replace private with serialized field. There we go. I'm going to cut it and move it up by my other serialized field and put game object instead of object so that I can add a serialized game object or my explosion. I'm going to save, and then I did mention that we want to do something with this explosion because once it spawns, I do want it to kind of kill itself over time. But let's spawn it for now, and then we'll take a look at that next. First, we'll go into Unity. We'll go find our player, which has our blaster on it. Make sure we've got everything selected. There we go. And then I'm going to go select my prefab for my blaster shot. There we go. That's what I was really looking for. I could have just gone down to the prefabs folder. So we'll find the player blaster shot, and we're going to assign the impact explosion. So I'm just going to drag the impact explosion over there like that. Press play, and let's start shooting things. So we play, and shots hit, and you can see my explosion got there, but it's just repeating over and over. Let's go shoot a couple more things. I shoot that. Shoot a couple more shots out there, and every time a shot lands, we're spawning these explosions, but the explosions just keep playing over and over and over. So we've got to make these explosions disappear or go away. And the quickest way to do that is going to be right after we do the instantiating. We can call the destroy method. So we call it destroy, and we need to pass in not the explosion, but the explosion's game object, and then another field for the delay or the amount of time that we want to wait. Now, I know that this explosion ends at about 1 second, so I want it to be a little tiny bit less than that, because I know that if I put in a 1 here, I'm going to get a little flash of that extra bit of particle. So I'm going to put in a 0.9 and a semicolon. Now, if that number doesn't work, I can always just come back and change it, but let's try that out. I've got it at a 0.9. What's going to happen now is we'll spawn this projectile or this explosion when the projectile lands, and after 9/10 of a second, we'll destroy the object. Let's go back into Unity, press play, and start blasting stuff. See if we get a cool explosion that shows up visually, but doesn't stay around and doesn't keep looping. There we go. Looks like it worked. That one is not destroying because nothing is set to destroy. That's just placed in the world. Let's go shoot a couple more things. Ooh. Hit that guy. You can see that my projectiles are landing, the shots are spawning, and they look right. They're not repeating or doing anything strange. So I'm going to stop playing, make sure that I've saved my scene, go into plastic, and say that we added our initial explosions on impact. And in just a moment, we're going to actually start to talk about some of the performance characteristics of what we've just done and how we can improve upon that as well. So get ready for that. But for now, let's check in our changes.